Hi, everybody. This is Joanne Ewing with Reaching Unlimited, and I am so pleased to have Sandra Champlain here. I love that name. I love to say that name. I'm probably saying it wrong, but I love saying that. Thank you for being here with us today.
You're so sweet. Sandra Champlain is the correct pronunciation, but I accept all kinds of pronunciations.
Okay.
Champlain, champagne is always a good one.
So, tell everybody a little bit about how you started your journey.
I'd love to. First of all, I'm the author of the book We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. I also have two podcasts, We Don't Die Radio, with
Mhm.
close to 400 episodes, and Shades of the Afterlife on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM network with now 140 episodes. So from that, you can tell that I'm passionate about sharing evidence of the afterlife. But it's not just that, it's helping people through grief, as we know there's a lot of that going on today, and helping people live a powerful life. So if we take a walk back memory lane, Joanne, never in a million years would I think that I would be the messenger for this message. I didn't really ever believe in this stuff. I thought people that talked paranormal, supernatural, angels, mediums, afterlife. I felt sorry for them. Back in the day,
Yeah.
I'd go through a bookstore and I'd see people in, that section, the new age section. And I mean, this isn't totally ego, but I felt sorry for people because I thought you had to see it to believe it. I really did not think there was any evidence of anything. I thought people were just reaching at straws. These
Yeah.
poor people needed to believe in something, right? So they did that.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much who I was. And it's of no fault of anybody's. My parents, great people.
Mhm.
And we had a psychic that lived in the town we lived in.
Mhm.
And she made this prediction that the Maid of the Mist boat by Niagara Falls was going to capsize with a whole bunch of deaf children on it. It never happened. So that somehow in my mind became that stuff's not real, and
Mhm.
nobody can tell you your future or your past or anything. So if you want to speed up from when I was a kid to mid 90s, I went through a fear of dying. Don't
Mhm.
know where it came from. My mom seems to think I had worked in nursing homes as a teenager. That's how I got my start in
Oh,
cooking, because I'm a chef by trade. You may not
mhm.
know that, or you may, I don't
I
know.
did read that.
But
Which
then,
is counterintuitive to what you do. So that I thought that I was intrigued by that.
yeah, exactly. In fact, just as a little side note, my mom says, everybody's going to eat, got to eat, and
Yes.
everybody's going to die. She thought in the beginning, like somehow I could tie those together. And I thought, oh, mom,
Oh, it's funny.
she's my biggest supporter, though. But, anyways, I went through this fear of dying, whatever caused it.
Mhm.
It was so awful that I would look out at the stars and I just couldn't handle that thought of a ever expanding universe. And
Mhm.
where does one go if one dies? Do we just cease to exist? And it
Mhm.
was terrifying to me. I wasn't sick or anything, but I would go to bed at night just scared. And
Mhm.
not only when I went to bed at night, it was anytime my mind was quiet, it's like I started thinking about this. And now looking back 25 years later ish, I totally get it because it got me on this path. But back then it was horrible. So I went searching very privately for any evidence of the afterlife. I started with religion first. We were raised Catholic,
Mhm.
and great stories of faith in Catholicism and
Mhm.
all the world religions, but no one said anything that could calm my fears.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I met a friend named Nancy, just a nice lady, that we had done a course together, a empowerment course, and she pulled out a deck of angel cards. And I thought, oh, please, right? Don't tell me you're one of those people.
Mhm.
And she gave me this deck of cards.
Mhm.
And I was working, cooking. My mom and I owned a catering company working with
Mhm.
race car teams in the IMSA series for over 30 years. Very
Wow.
stressful job, very stressful.
Mhm.
But I brought this deck of cards with me. And every day I'm like, okay, angels, what do you have to say? Well, I don't remember if it was 6 days out of 7 or whatever it was. I kept getting the very same card, which said music. And I shuffled the cards. So I thought, no, this is kind of a weird thing. I never used to listen to music when I was working. But what happened was I started having these psychic experiences. I would know the songs that would come on the radio, either just before they came on or before I even turned on the radio. So that was like, something's happening. Like, I cannot ignore this. And in time, I decided to very discreetly take a course in mediumship.
Oh, how funny. Discreetly.
I told people in my life it was a business seminar. I flew to California, spent more money than I needed to spend, but I needed to know, and this was my first opportunity to see what this is all about.
Yeah.
And in a very private room, there were just maybe 14 of us in the class. We were paired with partners, and the instructor just said, have love for the person across from you and just create this safe, circle of love, this bubble of love around you. She says, we're not really going to be mediums now, but she says, I'm just going to give you what one does. So that was a full green flag to use my imagination. So she said, just imagine that the person you're working with has somebody standing behind them. Well, who is it? What's the relationship? Maybe there's some details about the person, maybe how they died. Maybe there's a message for the person. So I was with this nice woman, never met her before, but I had my eyes closed and I just started inventing the person standing behind her. So I said it was your grandfather on your mom's side. I was all matter of fact because as these things came to mind, I just shouted them out. I saw a picture of a fishing boat. I said he was a fisherman. I heard Denmark. I heard the name Jan. I saw a big gap between his front teeth and blonde hair and blue eyes and really windburned skin. And then I see, puffing on a cigarette, right? And cough, cough, cough. So I'm telling her all these things. And I said, he died of lung cancer. And then I invented this message that he was a real tough father and he never told his own daughter, her mother, that he loved her. So I was done. I went first. I opened my eyes and I'm like, okay, it's your turn. But as I looked at her, there's just streams of tears running down her cheeks because her grandfather's name was Jan. He was a fisherman in Denmark. He fit the description. He died of lung cancer. And absolutely, she heard stories from her mom that he never said, I love you, and never got the hugs. Wow. So.
But you love that.
I do.
The newbies are the ones that just have no idea what they can and can't do. So they do.
Yeah. Beginner's luck is what I called it. The thing I didn't realize.
The most trusting.
Yeah. But well, I don't even know if I trusted. I was just free to use my imagination. Because at that point, I really didn't believe in it, but I thought I had to explore it to find out. And then she worked back with me and told me things about my grandfather that nobody could know. But what happened the rest of that weekend is I was only correct, 20 to 30% of the time, because anytime I tried, it didn't work, or anytime I was afraid, it didn't work. And, all these years later, I learned that fear and then the connection to the soul's communication through the psychic does not work, in fear. You have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to use your imagination. And anyways, but that cracked the door way open to, oh my God, there is something to this.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Shall I continue?
It's funny. I was similar to you when I first came into this world. I was very skeptical. I didn't believe it. I wanted to challenge it to be wrong because it can't be true. And I don't talk to dead people. Everybody else can. I'm going to go hide, but I'm not going to talk. No, don't even talk to me. I don't even want to feel you. I don't want to. I just was so adverse to it. And the thing is, when you start really connecting with spirit, the love the connection when you're just touching into that pure love of spirit is just the most amazing experience. Then you're just addicted after that.
Yeah.
It's
I
just a beautiful experience.
I don't know if I was addicted, but there was something there because I
Yeah.
know that fear. I had felt grief. There
Mhm.
was something in the back of my mind that said, Sandra, if you opened your mouth and told people about this, it
Yeah.
would really make a difference. But I swear I was still too scared because the fact I was so wrong in that medium class, I had this fear because a lot of people think mediums are, crazy, that
Yep.
they're not real because there are so many bad ones out there, that give it a bad name.
Mhm.
But I had so much fear that I wasn't ready to share. So I had this kind of a prayer to my soul. I didn't know it at the time. Like, I need something more than this if I'm going to open my mouth.
Right.
And as time went on, I'd meet people and they're coming from a funeral. And I just felt this guilt because, like, I knew something, but I wasn't ready to tell them
Mhm.
until I had gone to a Barnes and Noble bookstore. And I thought maybe I could dial in this medium business. I could figure out how it works and I can really be good at it, maybe. So I find this book called The Idiot's Guide to Communicating with Spirits.
Love that.
And it's written by Reverend Rita Berkowitz.
Mhm.
I love her. And throughout the book, there's information and practices, but
Mhm.
she's also a spirit artist. So throughout the book, there were pictures of people as they lived, and then the drawings that she did of them working with their loved one, as a medium. And oh
Mhm.
my God, they were the same people. And I thought, oh my gosh, where does one find a spirit artist? Where does one find a spiritualist church? Because I didn't even know they existed.
Mhm.
And lo and behold, when I looked at the back of the book, Reverend Rita's church was 45 minutes away from where I lived. Now, what are the chances of that, Joanne? Right? So
Oh,
these little breadcrumbs started showing up on Sandra's path. I went to meet Reverend Rita, and she's
mhm.
just an amazing lady.
Mhm.
But also, I attended her church quite a few times, and I met a couple that did electronic voice phenomena. That is, the
Mhm.
record using a tape recorder,
Mhm.
recording the sound of background noise and having voices on it.
Mhm.
So the experiment that they had us listen to, they said both of them had lost children in previous marriages. And when
Mhm.
they were talking about these EVPs, they said we left a digital tape recorder in our bedroom and all we had on was a fan. We left the house for 20 minutes and this is what was on when we got back. So they played us the sound clip that said, Mommy, Daddy, don't be scared. We're still here with you.
Mhm.
And I'm like, and I could hear it. And I got goosebumps. I get goosebumps today thinking of it. And then I thought, I need to know more because I'm starting to connect the dots that if I could do something like this, then I could really tell people that the afterlife is real and
Mhm.
tell a little bit of my story. But I was too afraid. Do you remember being a kid? You'd turn the records backwards and you're listening to the devil, all those things. I thought, good
Remember
Catholic girl, right? Come
that.
on. I shouldn't be playing around with this. But there was a weekend that I had free, October, I think it was 2005. And I
Mhm.
had heard about this nice place called the Omega Center in Rhinebeck,
Mhm.
New York. It wasn't too far. And I said, I'm going to maybe they'll have a course this one weekend when I would like to go.
Mhm.
Nature walks, massage, all that. Well, who was there the weekend that I had free was Tom and Lisa Butler, who
Mhm.
wrote the book on electronic voice phenomena.
Mhm.
Again, I had to go. I have to tell you though, I was petrified. The cab driver that brought me there, I said, I got to tell somebody what I'm doing. He's like, you're crazy. There were just 5 of us in the class,
Oh,
Joanne,
wow.
and most people had either a child or a spouse
Mhm.
that had passed. And so we all brought tape recorders with us and we all experimented with doing these recordings. And on the last night of class, I think it was the Saturday night, I went back to my cabin. It was just pouring rain outside. I had a roommate, but she was out to dinner with some friends. And I heard enough examples of these EVPs to know it was real, but I needed to capture one myself to really believe it. So I held out my tape recorder and just recorded raindrops. And I imagined my grandmother, grandfather, aunt, and uncle by the foot of the bed. And I said, okay, if you guys are here and this is real, and I'm meant to help people with it, I said, I need you to try to speak very loud. And then I'll say good night. So I let it record just for 1 minute. And I said, good night. When I played it back, I couldn't understand exactly all the words when I first heard it.
Yeah.
And I played it for my sister because what I could hear were some good night. But she said, and I could hear it after that, it says, good night, Sandra, in a man's voice. And then two women say, good night. And then a deep voice says, good night. Well, that instant changed my whole reality because you'd like to think I was excited about it, but I actually got a little spooked out because I'm thinking, are people always around me? Is it, do I have no privacy? And yeah, we do.
It's not one we have to hold on to, but it is a thing. Once you understand what it is, then you don't
right.
Go ahead.
I needed some time to digest it.
You have to go through the process.
But I brought it into the class the next day, and it transformed the people that were in my class. Because even though they didn't get their own recording, there was one of their own who did. And so all of a sudden it was like, my loved ones are around, their loved ones are around. I went on for about 2 years doing EVPs and working with people just for free, just giving it away, just seeing what came through and the messages of love and the specifics, and then tying in what I saw through my mind's eye and what was coming through on the recording and realizing these are the same people. And then some people would show me a picture of their loved one. I'm like, that's the person I just saw in my mind. It was just incredible. So I gathered a ton of really good information, but being that I worked so hard and deep inside my mind, I really thought if I shared this with anybody, people would think I was crazy. I'd lose family members. I'd lose friends. Like, there's no way I'm going to tell people this. But eventually I did. My dad, my dear dad, got diagnosed with cancer in January of 2010. And May 11th, he took his last breath. And through being with him and also having a real breakdown in relationships with my siblings, fights and things over his care. And then he did pass, and my sibling relationship they just all split, and things got really awful. And I hit a all-time low as a human being. It was grief, depression, all of that. And I am not somebody who was going to take my own life, but I got into such a deep state that I could understand how dark it gets for people that think that's the best thing to do. It's like, so I just never knew one could feel that down. And somehow a light bulb went off within me that this is not the Sandra that you've been all these years. Where did she go and what is this? So that had me delve into the world of grief, not only why it hurts so bad, because it is the most painful thing. I'm sure all your listeners and viewers can agree. It's the worst thing we'll ever feel.
Yeah.
But why did good people like my siblings and myself turn into such monsters? What's that about? Why are we fighting about things that didn't even happen? Why are we making judgments about each other when all of our lives we've known each other to be different people? And that's when I opened up this world of grief that most people don't know about. And that's when I'm like, I got to get this out there. And so if I can just take a moment to let everybody know that our biology actually changes when we grieve. The tears we cry during grief are not the same tears we cry any other time. This is a very poor comparison, but if we imagine someone who is addicted to drugs, whatever they may be, and then they are taken off of them, there's a withdrawal period that happens. And you would not trust that person going through a drug withdrawal to your deepest, darkest secrets, or even the keys to your car, or, access to your bank account, right?
Right.
Because you just think they're not all together.
Mm-hmm.
We human beings are run by neurotransmitters. When you think of your car needs all kinds of fluids to make it run, oil and gasoline, etc. These neurotransmitters are responsible for so much within our humanity. And when we grieve, it is like a drug addict that's gotten the drug taken away from them.
Mm-hmm.
When we love, we actually have these neural connections to people and pets and other things, our employment, because we can grieve when we lose a relationship, when we lose a job, etc. And when that connection breaks, it's like we lose our drug, and we lose a ton of these healthy neurotransmitters that are running through us. So it's no wonder people have a hard time sleeping or want to sleep all the time. People get angry, people cry. This is what I found interesting is we all have this occurring world. They say if two people watch the same, let's say, car accident,
Mm-hmm.
people might have different stories.
Yeah.
Well, those are good brains. When we grieve, our view of reality is so skewed that no wonder my siblings and I were fighting about what we thought was the same thing, but through different lenses of what happened. We did not know that we're fighting, with these brains. And I think it's 1 out of every 3 people have a relative that they don't talk to. There's so many divorces that happen during grief, and suicide and all kinds of things. And I found that there's tools that we can help us, bring up some of these neurotransmitters back, being in fresh air, exercising, eating healthy, getting your mind on something positive if you can, being with some puppies or cats or people, and so many things, being in the present moment. It
Mm-hmm.
is a long road through grief, and the only way to the other side of it is right through it. But when I found out about this world, I created an audio called How to Survive Grief, and I just posted it for free on Facebook, YouTube, wherever. And it went semi-viral, and people started writing me that chose not to end their lives because of listening. They're like, somebody understands what I'm thinking, what's going through. And when people realized this was grief that was happening, not what their mind was doing, then it gave them some power over it. And that's when, Joanne, I thought, darn it, I need to tell people about this. And because now, I mean, believing the afterlife is one thing, but to save a life is a whole nother one. So somewhere deep in my core, I thought, oh, and I imagine this, have a copy of my book right here just to show it off. Shameless plug.
Good
But
book.
I knew in my heart that if and when I write a book, it's going to be called We Don't Die. And that's appropriate, right? Because I talk about the afterlife. But what I slip in there in chapter 10 is that how to survive grief, the same as in that audio. And then how to have a powerful life. And if any one of your viewers want to get that book for free, the PDF version, I give it away because I think that grief chapter is the most important part. On my website, which is wedon'tdie.com, scroll to the bottom, and it says join my email list. And if you do, what will pop up says the first few chapters. The truth is, it's the entire book is there.
Beautiful.
So that's what got. Is it okay? I'll let you talk for a minute. I like to.
Usually I try to get a conversation going, but
I was on a roll.
Oh, yeah, it was good. What I want to really focus on, though, is because of my journey in becoming a medium, you go through that process of the hot and cold kind of stuff, on and off. Is it real? Is it not real? Am I really making this up, or are they really there, kind of thing, until you really get that momentum going. But I think as human beings, we can always have this maybe doubtful kind of part of our brain that's like, maybe I am making all this up. Maybe there isn't anything over there. How did you come to full circle and embrace that life does continue to go? What point did that happen for you?
I honestly think it's an ongoing thing
Mhm.
because as human beings, I don't think we're meant to believe the big picture 24/7. I think I don't want to call life a game because
Mhm.
it's not fun most of the time. But while we're here, I do think there's education for the soul, there's growth. I think we're on earth to serve other people, find our passion,
Mhm.
learn forgiveness. There's all kinds of good things. And these souls, as invisible as they may be, are very, very powerful. But
Mhm.
we're given this voice that's in our head that, looks in the mirror and goes, oh my God, you're too old, too many gray hairs, too big, too small, too ugly. And it doesn't
That's
reward us for all the hard work and all the good things that we've done. So the game, for lack of a better term, is something that we kind of buy into, that we are these beings, these human beings. And so that voice is always right there in
yeah.
my mind.
Mhm.
After enough, like the medium experience did it for me,
Mhm.
learning the EVPs did it for me. I've taken a ton of courses and a whole bunch
Right.
of stuff, and I have witnessed the miraculous. Even my
Mhm.
dad has come through one of these trans images from the great researcher in Brazil, Sonia Rinaldi. So people are working with technology and capturing voices
Mhm.
and pictures of people in the afterlife. And we made a documentary about her. But there's been enough things that have happened. And here's the trick too, on almost a daily basis, I do something afterlife related. So I'm either interviewing someone for my show, or just today we did a student medium demonstration. We hold weekly medium classes. We do a free Sunday gathering, spiritual service with medium demonstration as part of every one. Almost every day, there's something that happens that reminds me of who we really are. These souls having this human experience. And so I wake up in the morning forgetting all that. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. This is who we are.
I agree with you on
Yeah.
that. I have a question about something you said though that really struck me because I hear this a lot from people that life isn't fair. Life is hard. Life is whatever. You have that. How could a god or how could, I mean, I'm talking people in this realm, right? Mediums ha- that have this knowledge that how could this all be real? Why are we here? What is the purpose? How do you get through those time periods where it feels like just being a human is so hard? And why are we here? How do we get through this?
For me, and
Mm.
this is just for me, I say, what if I created some of this? And now,
Mhm.
not all of it, but I do believe that we are responsible human beings.
Mhm.
I know this maybe sounds silly, but I was in a rush to get somewhere once,
Mhm.
and I didn't want to go really, but I had to. On a rainy night, I hit two potholes, not one, but two, which flattened two tires at the same exact time. And I did not get to my destination. And I thought, well, that's strange. On one hand, I was really upset. I let people
Right.
down.
Mhm.
So I was playing this victim mode. And the other hand, it's like, Sandra, look at this. You didn't want to go. And why? You had three other routes you could take, three other highways, and you took that one. So all of a sudden, I shifted from being the victim to being responsible. So looking back from where I now sit, it's just stuff happens and some really, really, really lousy things happen. I don't believe we put them all there. I don't believe our lives are all pre-programmed and we have a
Mhm.
contract to everything. I may think that there are some things that we want to get out of this life for our soul, but we're getting given opportunities, to learn and to overcome. But I think that looking through that lens of not only maybe being responsible, but what could I learn from this? How
Mhm.
could I make a difference for someone else?
Mhm.
When we set our sights on service, helping another person, it seems that our life works out. We create a problem that's so much bigger than us.
Mhm.
Life is difficult. There's good, there's bad. Somehow there's a balance. I don't know. If we take our ego minds out of it, stuff just happens. It's
Mhm.
us, the human beings, that call it good or bad. I don't think that there's God saying, I'm making this happen, I'm going to make all these people suffer. I just think we're at a place where there's action and then there's reaction. There's things that happen. There's results of all
Mhm.
actions. But ultimately, I did some research what the biggest fears are that human beings have. And the first one is definitely dying. The
Mhm.
second one is being alone. And the third one is failure. And I think when we can believe the bigger picture, that we don't die, that we do go on, first of all, that fear of death melts away. I mean, I don't want to die and I don't want any
Yeah.
pain. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like the first one in the Congo
Easy.
line to get there at all. But then failure, the most successful people in the world, they fail. So
Yeah.
you can kind of embrace failure. And then being alone, well, we are surrounded by our loved ones. Now, certainly, I think they're busy in the spirit world, living their lives and learning and growing and playing and all that. But they're only a breath away and they can multitask. They can be here with us, as you know, from seeing and
Mhm.
being a medium, that people are witnessing things in our life, our loved ones that have passed.
Absolutely.
So we are never alone. We've got this invisible group of cheerleaders with us.
We do.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but
It
that's what I'll
does
give you
in
a
a
sister.
roundabout way, because I totally agree with you. I feel like we are the conductors to our life, and there is cause and effect. And some of the things are not the things we cause, right? We didn't start the chain reaction, but we've been a part of it, or sometimes we've started the chain reaction, depending on where we're at. But I love what you said about, I guess the thing is being the conductor of our life, and that, okay, you said maybe it happens or maybe it doesn't. I had it in my head, the wording that you used, but what struck me was that maybe. Where do you fit in with that maybe part of how we are a part of it or we're not a part? Because like I said, I feel like sometimes it's because of the cause and effect that somebody else has created or the causes and effect of what we've created. But yet there's certain things in our life that we don't have control over.
Right,
How do
right.
you work? I had another question. This is
Well,
not,
that's right. It'll come to you.
no, I know the other one now. How do you control, or how do you, because it sounds easy, right? When you have this knowledge, right? But
It's
it's not
not.
always easy when you're going through life and you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed out or like the world is against you when it's really not.
Right. It's a muscle that you keep practicing using, and it's catching yourself in the act.
Hmm.
So where the maybe comes in is, I don't think we're going to get all the answers
Yeah.
about this life.
Hmm.
And I was going to say, till we transition to the next, but even there, I don't think we're going to get all the answers. I don't. So I, and I would say to everybody, those passions you have, those truths you find for yourself, keep them sacred. They're your thing. Don't let anybody tell you you are wrong. If something that comes out of my mouth, it fits for you, like you go to a
Hmm.
store and you try something on, you like that. Oh, it feels good. It fits. I'm going to buy that for myself. If I say something or Joanne says something that resonates with you, keep it. Like being responsible for your life, or trying to look at things that happened and what did I learn from that, as opposed to being a victim. But if that doesn't feel right to you, don't take it. So the maybe comes in where I use this to empower me in my life.
Hmm.
However, I get stuck too. I
Hmm.
have times where I want to make somebody wrong, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm right, you're wrong.
Yep.
And how about look at life from their point of view, Sandra? Isn't that something you talk about in your book? Well, yes, it is. Okay. So it's catching in myself in the act, and
Mm.
maybe not being so quick to judge or say yes or say no, just taking a breather and kind of looking at the different aspects of who they are. And there's a fortune cookie I got once that says the best place to stand in an argument is on the other person's side. And that always just reminds me to really look. I don't know what somebody else's past is like, their thoughts, their baggage, all of that. So to try to get along, I think everybody we look at is another soul. They're going through their thing. Is to have a little bit of compassion. But I don't always remember it. I don't always remember to love myself, that I'm on this journey too. Sometimes I think I should have it all figured out by now and I should be perfect. Oh, and I'm not. So it's just trying to catch myself in those times. And I'm sure you feel the same way about gratitude. When I'm really in a slump, I got a little post-it on my dresser, just what are 3 things you're grateful for, and to really look at what it is I do have as opposed to what I don't have. And it's like, I feel a little better. And okay, it's not that significant. And I go on.
I feel like, a lot of people that get stuck there. I mean, we all get stuck there at some point in time in our life, even knowing what we know. We just get stuck there because of our own whatever lesson we're there to learn, or whatever wall we've bumped up against that has now been facing us and we have to really work with. And it really does come back to, we're human, and we don't give ourselves that break that we are human. And that's a part of our experience, is to realize that this is what we're here to experience, is being human. Because, it's interesting you said, would we be learning more as spirit, that you think that they're learning and they're growing? And I believe that that's true. But the interesting thing from when you were talking, my thought went to, but we're continuing to learn as souls. We don't go back. Like, I know this is just what I feel. And from my experience of working with spirit and sitting in meditation and analyzing and all the stuff that our human mind does, is that it's just growing, like we do as human beings, continuing to grow and continuing to evolve, which is such a beautiful, I think, if you think about the joy and the accomplishments and the things that we can do and manifest as we just continue to grow and come back to this earth and then have this other lifetime or whatever experience that we're coming back to have. So I feel like I agree with you. It's having that compassion and that love for and patience with self, and realizing that we're all at different levels. And I love what you said about having the ego side and being more in the light side. We have that divide where we can easily be in the light and go, okay, this is easy, I can just whip right through this one, not a problem. Then we become the victim. Now we're going into that egoic side but I have my rights, or I have, I'm justifying myself for whatever reason, where that's still a part of the human experience, but yet we make ourselves wrong. I know I'm good at that.
Oh, me too. I think absolutely everybody watching right now knows firsthand how easy it is.
Yeah.
One thing, I don't always practice what I preach, but I try,
exactly.
Is, when we wake up in the morning or look in the mirror, there's all kinds of negative things. And as human beings, we're either focused on the future or looking back in the past. As much as people say the present moment is a gift, which it is, we breeze right by it when a text message comes or something.
Yeah.
But to remember who we really are, if you talk to people in your life, or just imagine you're talking to people in your life, what are the good things they say about you? And they'll say, oh, you're so generous, you're so funny, you're this, you're that. Well, that's who you really are. And then if you take a few minutes and write down some of your successes and just take a stroll down memory lane, not ego-based, but you start thinking about what people say about you. And that person on that piece of paper did so many incredible things. That's who you are. That ego mind doesn't want to think about that, but we really are capable of so much. And we're afraid so much for the future, but we've shown ourselves, like it or not, we have gotten through life. We've gotten to exactly where we are. And we've been through some really tough stuff to trust ourselves that in the future, we're going to make it through, that we have everything we need and we will get through this. But give ourselves some credit that we are much more powerful than we think we are. But be gentle on yourself too, because we are human and We've got this habit of not being so nice to ourselves.
I think we're a lot nicer to the people around us than we are to ourselves. We tend to be over judgmental of what we do, think, say, whatever
Right.
we should have done better or whatever. But yet we'll be very quick to forgive or allow somebody else that a lot of times are even worse to other people or us than we are to ourselves. It
I
always
know.
boggles my mind how we can give someone a break that's really not on the right side of life. And yet we are so hard on ourselves about the tiniest little things. But that's a part of our journey as well, is
It
being able
is.
to love ourselves. And I don't know one person that's succeeded at that perfectly yet.
I don't either. We just keep practicing.
Me too.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other things that you said, which is fascinating to me about death, we're all afraid of death, even though we know what's on the other side and that we don't really die. And we can maybe analytically think about it. Okay, I'm here now, and one day I'm not going to be here. But that whole process as a human being is very scary. Even if you know that you're going to be fine on the other side, the process is a hard one. How do you deal with that, or what are your thoughts in that way?
I think, and what I have done,
Mm-hmm.
but I need a little more practice on it, is I actually recorded this somewhere as well, as a little meditation
Mm-hmm.
that, well, first of all, anytime we think of visual imagery and we think of athletes and people who have done incredible things,
Mm-hmm.
who first visualized it in their mind,
Mm-hmm.
they've won races and done all kinds of things, is to have that visual about dying, and not in a scary way,
Mm-hmm.
but that fear is definitely there and nobody wants to have any pain. But what
Mhm.
if we closed our eyes? I'm not saying do it now, no, but took some time, really. And I don't want to forget to talk to you about some of the research of Dr. Christopher Kerr,
Mhm.
because these deathbed visions, well, I'm just going to squeeze this in because it's part
Do
of the
it.
story. Yeah, he wrote a book called Death is But a Dream,
Mhm.
and he's got a Death is But a Dream, I think, .com, and there's a documentary that you can watch. I was always of the thought that people had these deathbed visitations or visions, and you hear these stories just before somebody passes, they reach up and they're talking to a loved one,
Mhm.
and that does happen. But Dr. Kerr went out, and 1,500, 1,600 people, he researched something like that as a hospice doctor, and found out that this wasn't just at the very end of life. This could be 4 to 6 weeks before someone passes. That a
Mhm.
very natural part of our dying process is to have dreams that are just as real as our living life, that our loved ones come. And our loved ones, of course, they're younger and they're healthier. And quite often they tell them, you're going to go on a trip. Get your things together. You're going to come with me. We're going to go on a trip. And so it starts very early on in that process. Not just the last moment. And to watch the documentary and do some of this research, it is so darn comforting to
Mhm.
know that people are there with us.
Mm.
So to do some kind of a visualization and just think, okay, we're all going to think when we're older, right? Not that
Yeah.
something's going to happen to us, but that our loved ones start showing up. And you get to a certain age and you have plenty of people that have transitioned, and you just see them in your mind's eye coming and sitting with you in the room. And maybe nobody else can see them, but you can see them, and they're looking good and they're telling you stories about all the fun things, and they're letting you know that you're going to continue on with them. And then you get to pick whatever age you want. And the dying process is gentle. And it's said that even when people are suffering, that it's the body suffering and the soul gets out first. I hope that happens, because
Yeah.
that was the case with my dad.
Mhm.
But just that it's like falling asleep, but closing our eyes and we open them again. And our loved ones are there. Our pets are there. There's this world that's so close to the world we are living. So it's comfortable to us. And you get this, maybe even a parade, people cheering you on like you're crossing the finish line, that you've made it. and you realize that you have never died. You are still you. But all the people that you're with now are people that have already transitioned. But then you can look almost like virtual reality and see your loved ones who are still on earth. And they say time is an illusion. It's hard to get your mind around, but
Mhm.
in the afterlife, to them, there's no time. So it can be just a blink of an eye that we're all together again. But they plant thoughts and memories in their loved ones' minds and let them know they're there. But then we can go to places like the halls of learning, and we can learn anything we want to learn. And I've got the secret dream someday to learn to sing, right? So if I don't get to do it here, I'll be singing over there. If I don't meet Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome this time around, oh, he'll be over there. But to have some kind of a practice, and also not just having a practice of like visualizing that's how we exit this earth, but to keep plugged in, listening or watching your show, reading good books, listening to podcasts, getting involved, taking a course in mediumship or whatever that keeps you understanding that there's a bigger picture.
Mhm.
And I think that is so important, because if I did not have this and left to my own devices, I don't know where I would be. But I have a nice group of friends now that all speak
Mhm.
this language, and I'm so far in it that I cannot escape it, which
Yeah.
is great. So I can't forget. It's
Yes.
not easy. I don't have an easy life. I don't. But I know I'm not in it alone. And I also know, Joanne, that it is our toughest times that make us who we are today. I look back on my past, and even what
Mhm.
happened with the death of my dad, I'm grateful to my siblings,
Mhm.
because had they and myself not behaved exactly the way they did, had dad not gone the way he did, I would have never done the research I've done
Mhm.
and be doing what I'm doing today. So everybody's a gift.
It always comes out the way it's supposed to. And, I guess when you were talking, what hit me was that we're always afraid of the things that we don't know. That doesn't mean that they should be feared, right?
Right.
It's just we don't understand. And that's what we're actually afraid of, is not understanding. But yet, when we feel into the spiritual world, we feel that love and that compassion. So for me, I've always just kind of dismissed it as, it's all going to be okay when I get to the other side. So whatever happens, it's going to be okay. So I think it's just that, to me, it's just that unknown. That's the part that
Yeah.
I'm more
It's the
afraid of.
same for everybody. And I
Yeah.
think that's that ego mind. But
Oh,
like I said, we've made it this far. We've
yeah.
handled a lot of awful stuff that's come our way. We are
Mhm.
smart enough, if we stay in the present moment, even in a tough conversation, somehow we know the right things to say. So we just have to trust our future self that we will be okay with it all.
We will. So, what are some of the challenges that you faced along this journey that have been really like eye opening for you and changed your life and your thinking?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, is myself, really, because I was a nasty person. I mean, I had a nice personality, of course, but towards other people, that ego was so
Mhm.
strong.
Mhm.
Even take something like near death experiences, when there's a gazillion stories. I was so opinionated that, oh, that's just part of our brain shutting down. That's all it is. Did I do the research? No. And here's some big news just in the last few months, that they proved that near death experiences are not something that just happens when your brain shuts down. There's a whole world of evidence now that they're not willing to say it's proof of the afterlife, but science says there's no way people can have this ultra consciousness
Mhm.
and know things outside of themselves. Even blind people can see. They
Mhm.
have said near death experiences are something really extraordinary. There's
Mhm.
something going on there. So it's the most of the battle, quite honestly, has been with myself. It's been
Mhm.
my fear of
Mhm.
telling people what I'm doing. What are people going to think of me? All goes back to the ego. But to just trust. And right now, somebody asked me today if I'm a medium, could they get a reading? I said, no, I'm not that kind of medium. I said, even though I've taken classes in it, I believe I'm a medium between the two worlds of
Mhm.
letting people know as many ways as I can and introducing them to good people,
Mhm.
that life goes on, and to help those who are experiencing grief through it and to the other side. So it's a medium in a different way. But I think I have a much bigger reach
Mhm.
by following what I'm passionate about. And
Mhm.
that is learning. That is learning as many different reasons to believe, and sharing good people with extraordinary stories, and sharing good people that are doing good things and getting them out to the most amount of people.
I think every part of this next stage of our human life is really important to talk about and not be afraid. Like I know for me too, I'm sure anybody who knows me would agree with this. I was like you, and I had very strong opinions about things I didn't know about. And but as I kept learning, I was open to, oh, there's more. Oh, I can look at this in a different way. But it took me being open-minded and moving through it, and not being the thing, and I'm hearing this, sorry, it's like, correct that. Being open minded isn't wrong, because you don't give away your own individuality. You don't give away your own brain. What you're doing is you are contemplating and kind of working through what that means to you. It's not like I've gone through this as just kind of a dummy going, yeah, I'm just going to accept it all. There's no, I mean, I'm very critical of stuff, very skeptical of stuff, and I have to prove everything. And like I said, when I first started this journey, everybody who was doing mediumship, it was like, you go have fun. I'm going to go hide in the closet. I don't want to see dead people. I don't want to talk to dead people. I don't want anything to do with dead people. No, they're dead. I don't want to do that. But it was my progression of understanding what death really was about and life was really about, and being able to challenge that within myself. And that's what I really do reach the unlimited for. It's to challenge your beliefs. Are you believing it yourself, or was it given to you? Are you just trusting what was funneled into your brain when you were growing up, and yet you've never questioned, is this real? Which is something that really blew my mind when I started realizing what wasn't real. But it's being open to all the possibilities and questioning it, and then being able to share that with other people and show them that they don't have to be what, very opinionated and stubborn, and because
Right.
that's coming from fear. That's just coming from ignorance of not being open to really experience what the spiritual world has to give us. So I love the journey that you've taken, and that you have this, because I've watched you and I've watched your show, your podcasts. Also, I think it was Pirette. No, Marcia said she loves your podcast. Uh,
Hi, Marcia. Thank you. I just like to share. That's all.
But it's so important, this subject, because so many people are afraid of death, are afraid of all the aspects of it. So the fact that you're doing this work and are known for this work and have made a big impression in the world for what you do is really a beautiful thing. And I want to thank you for that.
You're most welcome. I thought of one more thing I'd like to share, if it's okay
What's
with
that?
you. It's just to question, like you said, question your beliefs.
Mhm.
I took a little time, well, a lot of time really, trying to figure out, which I never can, the vastness of the universe, right? The ever expanding universe. And when we think of reality, we think, oh, we must be real.
Mhm.
However, on the quantum level, you can go either to outer space or inner space. Is
Uh-huh.
science has proven down to the tiniest atoms that are in us that all we are is vibrating energy. If we had a teeny tiny camera and we put it into one of the things that make us up, we're invisible. So that's mind blowing. So we have bought into this
Yeah.
really great illusion that we are real and nobody else is, right? And we have these phones that can communicate and get every bit of information that's out there in the world, and
Yep.
connected through these invisible energy things to the satellites and GPSs. Yet we don't think we can connect mind to mind. I would think most people have had some kind of a psychic experience that they knew the same thing and somebody else was saying at the same time, or they knew the phone was going to ring and it rang. Like,
Yes.
we just need to connect with it, because we are all these divine souls that
Yeah.
we just forget who we are.
Yes.
That's it.
It's so sad. And there's nothing we can do about it, right? There's going to be those people in the world that don't want to remember who they are. And that's okay because that's their path.
Correct. And someday they
Mhm.
will, whether it's that moment they cross over or when they
Right.
go looking for answers, because the journey is precious.
It
There's
is.
a lodgepole pine out in California and other places in the world, and the only way it can reproduce and regrow and all that is to be subjected to the intense heat of forest fires. So I
Mhm.
think our grief and looking for answers can really break us open at that highest temperature and get us on our journey. I mean, it can kill us inside too. I mean, a lot of
Yes.
people choose to check out if they're
Mhm.
experiencing grief, but it all can also have us look for answers and then go on to share. Look at the lady who started Mothers Against Drunk Driving out of her darkest time. She's impacted humanity in such a
Mhm.
big way, and others do too.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm a part of it's been known, but a group that do mediums that do readings for mothers who've lost their children because you can connect them. And that's what does a mother want to do more is to connect to their child that they've lost. And
Yeah,
there's so many
absolutely.
ways of making the grief turn into something that would be positive for people. That's the hard thing though. And uh, it sometimes you can do it and sometimes you can't, and we can't judge anybody for the ones that just can't and the ones that can, because I feel like we all have our purpose as this collective, as a whole, and so we need all aspects of life to be able to learn what it is that we're here to learn and feel and overcome and take with us when we go to the other side again. It's all
Yeah, just have compassion for your fellow traveler. You
it's
don't know the world. And as much as I know about grief, do I want to experience it again?
yeah,
No. And will I? Yeah. But I mean, it's brutal. So
yeah,
remember, everybody, if you want it, you can have a free copy of my book, we-don't-die.com. Scroll to the bottom, email address.
yeah.
It pops up. Chapter 10, grief.
Well, you've given a lot of wonderful information, but I have one more question for you.
Okay.
What is your golden nugget you would like to leave with everybody?
Oh, it is just how precious you are, how
Oh,
one of a kind, how there'll never be another you. And whatever flaws you think you might have are really just facets of a diamond.
oh,
One of a kind. There's you who can make an impact to other people like no one else can. So
mhm.
just to give yourself a big hug, don't be hard on yourself. You are exactly where you need to be on your journey. Exactly. No matter how old you are, how young you are, you're you. And someday you'll be looking back going, oh, I'm so lucky I got to be me, and make
Yeah,
your life count.
I love that. Even if you're not feeling you're lucky right now, you will one day. That I promise. So I know some people that aren't. Anyway, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom. I sure
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. Thank you for all you do.
What a gift. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the chat. We will get back to them. I will get back to them. If there's anything for Sandra, I'll get it to her. Remember to go to her webpage and get her book. That is a wonderful blessing. And I hope everybody has a blessed and great evening. And thank you so much, Sandra.
Welcome. Bye.
Bye, everybody.